talking about it out of context, like Winx Club out of context, makes you sound like you're like experiencing a fever dream, but like it's all really good, I promise. Hey there, welcome to the Winx Forever Podcast. I'm Lola, creator, host, and lifelong Winx fan. I'm taking a deep dive into the very cool universe of Winx Club. So whether you've been a Winx fan since 2004 like myself, or you vaguely remember the show from your childhood, or you're being introduced to it for the first time, welcome. This is the Winx Forever Podcast. You guys, it's about to get real. The next 3 episodes of Fate go so fast and don't really slow down, and then it's like the end of the show. And then I'm just like open mouth, wide-eyed, you know why. And because it goes so fast, there's a lot to cover. So let's get into it. Fate, the Winx Saga, Season 1, Episode 4, Some Wrecked Angel. So the description reads, Bloom continues her search to find answers with Sky. Beatrix works to conceal her crime. A special guest visits Althea and leaves Stella feeling conflicted. What? I just watched like so much of this episode so many times to get all of my like thoughts in order. And Beatrix doesn't try to conceal a crime in this. If anything, she like reveals a crime. She reveals like the war crime that anyway. So we'll address all of these things, but I think that whoever like wrote these descriptions and like titles for the episodes only saw like the first draft of the script, and I was like, yeah, cool, I got it. I don't need to read the updated versions. This will be fine. So the episode opens with Farah and her Althea staff members, all freaking 3 of them, investigating the breach of the Undercroft entrance to Dowling's office while discussing that her assistant has suddenly disappeared. Professor Harvey, Tara's dad, uses a special like concoction to discover how the Undercroft was accessed when they discover that Callum, her assistant, has been murdered. Dramatic. It's all dramatic. Okay, so I just don't buy. I don't buy it. I don't buy that Farah hadn't noticed that there was a breach to her office like before just now. Like she kind of just lets anyone freaking walk into her office. There's no special security magic, no secret password, no spell protecting it, other than the Undercroft, which obviously you're hiding a presumably dead woman in there. Her office is just open, you know? Like, I feel like a lot of this show didn't consider the magical elements of the world around them, or maybe, and this is just like a thought that I've had, you know, maybe this magic world, the other world, isn't as magically advanced as its like fictional world counterparts that we're used to, like the wizarding world or, you know, in any of those, you know, worlds like Lord of the Rings, Narnia, like, you know? And also, like, that would stand the reason why they have to use, like, mere mortal technologies and cars and, like, freaking iPhones. I mean, it's a theory. Not a very good one, in my opinion, but, I mean, it's all I have. So, thanks to Stella's, quote-unquote, accidental slip-up of telling Riven at the party in the previous episode that Bloom is a changeling, so now, like, the whole school knows, and apparently, like, talking behind her back and, like, whispering, ooh, she's, like, the talk of the school. My best friend said that Bloom, in the original series and in Fate, gives her strong quote-unquote pick-me girl vibes, which, like, I can't I mean, I can't really defend Bloom in that department. She kind of is, but I digress. So seemingly trying to avoid like their glances and their whispers, Bloom quickly joins Aisha in like the Dowling's reception office area, the like office that Callum administrated all of his stuff for Farrah. I don't the freak know. We only like saw like him twice. And the second time he died. You know, so apparently Aisha is like volunteering to work as Farrah's secretary while they discovered like what happened to Callum. But Aisha then accuses Bloom of like begging Aisha to take this position to snoop for more information about Bloom's past. And then like Tara and Musa join them, and Bloom feels like a little awkward, like, ooh, it's a little awkward. Because like, ooh, she's so awkward. Oh, she's so quirky. I'm just kidding. I really don't have a problem with Fate Bloom. And honestly, it really, in my opinion, is the closest character in the series to the original show. So I'm just joking around. But she feels awkward and she feels like they're all like having pity on her, and like, which totally goes against her like strong badass woman vibes. And she tells her roommates that she needs to go finish a pending paper before like the mandatory assembly. I just, the characters of this show, every single one of them just are very dodgy and put up barriers and like don't allow others to get close, or at least at first. Like they're all very closed off to like receiving friendship, to receiving compliments or like emotion, which gets addressed obviously later in the show, but you can see it here with Bloom, like sensing an urge of unity amongst the girls, trying to make her feel like better and like deciding to deflect and act like she's fine. And you can see it in Tara, you know, always acting happy, which is what Musa points out in the first episode. You can also see it in Musa by literally not allowing others to see how she feels. Like, just completely, like, I feel like that's also, like, a huge part of her, like, power. You know, she feels everything. She doesn't want anyone to really know how she feels because she understands the weight of emotions and, like, how uncomfortable they are and can be. So that would really, I mean, honestly, that would desensitize anyone. And then you can also see, like, this kind of, like, putting up of barriers in Stella when Sky asks if she had reached out to any of her roommates for support with her mother, Queen Luna, coming to the school to discuss the burned ones at the assembly. So I'm glad that they positioned the girls in this way at first, honestly. To me, it does provide a bigger payoff near the end of the season when they all begin to let down their barriers towards one another, which we will begin to see in Tara and Musa in this episode, actually. Oh my gosh. Okay. So there's so much about this Tara and Dane scene that, like, first off, does, like, Tara's whole family just live in the greenhouse? And do they just hang out there whenever Harvey is, like, literally working in his office? Like, that would get so annoying. Also, where the freak is Tara's mom? Where's her mom? I hope that, like, her mom was killed by a burned one. That sounds, like, very grim. But, like, I hope that, like, something tragic has happened and she can, like, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe, like, they got a divorce. I don't know. That would be a cop-out, I feel like. Also, where's Stella's dad? I think that Luna probably killed him. I'm getting into some really crazy, like, fate theories that I don't have time to divulge. So, we're gonna move along. Okay, so the first, like, what the freak are they hanging out in the greenhouse all the time for? Second, the feminism girl power line that I assume it was supposed to be that Tara delivers in this scene. Like, when Dane comes to talk to her, it just, to me, it fell flat. Like, it took me several times watching it before it dawned on me what she was actually meaning by saying all of that about, like, the patriarchy and crap. It just, it had the same vibes as the quote-unquote mansplaining line from Bloom to Sky in the first episode. It feels forced. Like, we get it, girl power, but geez, be more subtle about it? I don't know. Thirdly, Dane's kind of an asshole. And, we get that. He's just trying to figure out who he is, as a lot of kids in high school are, but man, a lot of people have an issue with the only bi character in the show being made out to be this villain. And honestly, not even a villain. He's a villain's sidekick to the sidekick, almost. I get it. I really do. But I think that Dane's character is really just bland. And they didn't give much thought to the development of this character at all. He's a literal cardboard. No personality. No kind of, we don't get to learn anything about his background as, a lot of characters in the show. Yikes. Hey there, thanks so much for listening. If you're enjoying this episode of the Winx Forever podcast, consider following us on social media at WinxForeverPodcast. So when I watched Fate for the first time, I'm not gonna lie, I was mildly disappointed with what they did with Luna. However, as the fourth episode progressed, I began to understand why they had to make her evil, because it explains so much about Stella's character arc and really allows Stella to have some really good redemptive moments in the last two episodes. And I'm willing to bet that Stella's mother is actually the reason that Stella had to break it off with Sky before the summer break. Mark my words. I have a feeling that it'll be in the next Fate novel that comes out in August. Don't ask me if I finished A Fairy's Path, because I haven't. I just finished Harry Potter Order of the Phoenix. So, it's coming soon. I need to I just need to bite the bullet and finish the book. It's so close. And I found a couple of, really cool, I don't know, Easter eggs. I want to call them Easter eggs, but things that parallel very nicely to the original series, and even a direct quote from the original series, at least from the 4Kids version. I can't remember if it's also in the Ray English version, but yeah, so very interesting. So stay on my social media on the lookout for my book review of the novelization of Fate. It's so bad. So, speaking of Sky's and Stella's relationship and things paralleling with the original series, am I the only one that realized that in the first season of the Winx Club series, Stella was technically dating quote-unquote Sky before we knew that Sky and Brandon had switched identities, which is a whole nother thing. And if you've never seen the OG series, that's probably a huge spoiler, so I apologize. But in Fate, she actually dated Sky in the first season. How, I don't know, I think that's kind of meta. I know, now we know in Fate, it was more to create this weird, love triangle in the series, which we all know Brian Young loves a good love triangle. You can't see it, but I'm rolling my eyes.
You're listening to the Winx Forever podcast.
So, since Aisha is covering for the now discovered deceased Callum as Farrah's secretary, when Queen Luna and all three of the entire Althea staff goes into her office, she conveniently finds this magical listening device, no doubt left by the late Callum. But an office full of powerful fairies don't realize that they're being eavesdropped on? Okay. Like I said, probably not as magically advanced as, I don't know. Anyway, I'm trying to get over the fact that there's so many this shouldn't happen because they're magic moments, but it's really hard. So anyway, Aisha hears them discussing Callum's death and then goes immediately to tell Bloom, who starts getting even more suspicious and begs Aisha to cover for her while she goes into, wait for it, a restricted area to investigate further about her origins. This is a big deal to me, especially as like a kid that grew up in America with Winx, that in the 4Kids version, Bloom opens the restricted vault in the library to understand more about the dragon flame and the great dragon. So it's very fitting that they worked this into Fate to me. Not to mention all the times that Bloom in the first season just gets into situations that they shouldn't be in because she wants to learn more about her past. And I don't know, it just hits me like with some nostalgia, you know? But if you wanted to play a really fun game, take a shot every time someone in the show says Bloom needs answers, or literally anything to do with the word answers and Bloom's past. And I swear you would be sloshed by the end of the 4th episode. Maybe next episode I'll like tally up how many times they said it in the whole series, because man, it feels like a lot. So Bloom like makes her way to this restricted area of the East Wing of Althea. It's like the part of the school that we discovered in the last episode doesn't ever get used except to hide, apparently, dark secret about Althea's past in inches of dust, and where the specialists also like to throw rager parties apparently once a year. Whatever. So Sky surprises Bloom by showing up in the East Wing and decides to help her rifle through old pictures for information about her past. And this scene is just everything about like the next 3 episodes of Fate just give me such hardcore OG Winx vibes, and I dig it. Because this scene is definitely like reminiscent of season 1, where Sky, then believed to be like Brandon, it's a thing, assist Bloom in sneaking into Cloud Tower School for Witches to help her discover more about her past, when she is like tricked to believe that she's actually a witch, and the tricks like set all of that up. It's talking about it out of context, like Winx Club out of context, makes you sound like you're like experiencing a fever dream, but like it's all really good, I promise. So Bloom and Sky are joined then by Beatrix and Riven, and they cause a split between the two couples after Beatrix told them that Riven had been the one spreading all of the changeling rumors around the school. So, like, obviously this causes Saint Sky to become really defensive for Bloom and follows Riven out of the East Wing into, like, this courtyard to confront him about his attitude, naturally leaving Bloom alone with Beatrix, which is probably what Beatrix had intended all along. Meanwhile, Tara, Aisha, and Musa all find out in the assembly that there was more to it than just talking about burned ones, when Musa catches a strange, like, on-edge emotion from Dowling and the rest of all other 2 of the Althea staff. I will never get over it. Why are there not more, like, teachers? There's so many students. There's only 3 teachers. So then, after paying closer attention, Tara recognizes a device that they're using to track magic. And they're alerted to the fact that Callum had died thanks to Aisha, and they're piecing it all together, and they suspect that someone in the school did it. After the assembly, though, Stella and Farah attempt to display Stella's progress with her powers to Queen Luna. Unimpressed, the Queen shows how she expects much of Stella as the Princess of Celeria, and is honestly really harsh to her. This is when we learn how powerful the power of light can be in Fate, the Winx Saga. Luna shares that when you control light, you control what people see. And man, I just love this complexity that they give to Stella's power. It's not just energy beams and cheesy spells like Rising Sunburst and etc. To quote Fate Aisha, so Stella's magic is useful after all. But almost more important in this scene is it's the first time that we see Stella look truly like small and scared and insignificant. She's always like this kind of haughty, self-absorbed princess figure that has to act kind of brave or act, I don't know, like put on a show. Here, she is truly terrified of her mother, terrified of disappointing her, and probably for a good reason, since this seems like an appropriate punishment that the queen seems fit for a bad grade. Like, there's no telling what other punishments Stella has had to encounter throughout her entire childhood for mistakes much bigger than just a bad grade. Like, that would also serve reason why she's so bent on getting her portal ring back as well. So, like, yikes. Noted. Queen Luna is mad scary. I would venture to say that she's kind of scarier than freaking Rosalind. I hate Rosalind. I don't like the way she talks, but we're totally not there yet, but yuck. So then we have Aisha listening with her nifty little listening device. She asked Stella if she was okay after she heard, like, the unfortunate conversation she had with her mother, when Stella again deflects to maintain her reputation of being this headstrong princess who has it all together, which clearly Aisha sees right through. Like the good friend Aisha is. Yeah, the Winx just don't deserve Aisha as a friend. Aisha and Tara, they're just better off without them. At least for now.
You're listening to the Winx Forever podcast.
Now that she was alone with Bloom, Beatrix convinces Bloom to break into the restricted area that Sky had warned them not to go into before, like, splitting off to go lecture Riven. When they discover an old war room that Bloom and Beatrix begin to look through the old documents for clues about her past. This is when I tell you I screamed, I freaked out. But this is when Bloom reveals that her birthday was December 12th, 2004, which is canonly known in the fandom as Bloom Peter's actual birthday in the series. And it is also the year as a nod to when Winx Club premiered its first season in 2004. December 12th is also the date of when we got our first teaser content from Fate, the Winx Saga, which is what gave me hope in the first place that this show would be any good at all. And thankfully, in my opinion, I mean, I was right. So, argue with the wall. This show takes a lot of liberties from its original source. Sure, there's no doubt about that. But, I mean, really, the writers did do their research, and it seems with some of the nods and the simple gestures to the Winx series within Fate, I mean, call me a simp for nostalgia or whatever, but I enjoy it. What's funny in this scene is that Beatrix begins to piece together Bloom's story, and so Beatrix offers to take her to Astrodel, the town where she promises Bloom that she'll get answers. So once they get to Astrodel, which is apparently, according to Beatrix, only 2 hours away, she reveals that Bloom and her are both from a town of blood witches, though, of course, they don't know that yet. We know it because we've seen it. If you haven't seen it by now, I don't apologize for spoilers. Go watch the dang show. So, like, I have several thoughts about Astrodel and why it looks like a medieval town when it was destroyed just like 16 years prior in 2004. And it goes along with kind of what I was saying about it's a newer, not established magical world, right? So if the other world is a parallel dimension to the first world, Earth as we know it, then why does Astrodale look so old? Granted, it was destroyed by one of the most powerful fairies in the other world, but it seems to me that the other world is new or newer than the first world. And that is why it is called the first world and the other world, right? It seems like the world is just kind of new. Maybe that's why there's still earth elements. Maybe that's why earth fairies are in fact called earth fairies and not just nature fairies. The other world came from the first world to some extent, is my thought. I mean, again, could be wrong, but that's just the only thing that my brain has come up with to help make sense of this sloppily put together magic universe that Brian Young has created from our beloved show. But I mean, honestly, the Winx world is also kind of haphazardly meshed together, and through all of the different iterations and dubs, obviously there comes like some adjusted storylines or some different world names or whatever. But I mean, at least, I don't know, the fandom has taken a lot of like liberties to create this collective headcanon of the Winx Club universe and the Winx Club world and its history. So like, coming from that, anything that Fate does, like, probably it's going to seem sloppy, because we've lived with this canon, we've lived with this world that we've helped kind of fill in the gaps from the original series, like, for the past 17 years. So of course we're kind of leery about it. Of course we're kind of like poking the holes in the story of Fate, and even I, like, you know, can make fun of it, but altogether, I mean, you know, for what it is, it's pretty good. So Aisha shares what she discovered after listening to Farah, that the teachers didn't find who killed Callum, and that they were piecing it together when Sky comes in to their dormitory and asks where Bloom is. The Winx then barge into Dowling's office and tell off the adults for, like, lying to them, which, as if they had a right to know what they were doing when they literally didn't. Like, they're kids. They're, like, mad at these adults for not including them into adult conversations. But they alerted them to where they thought Bloom was, alone with Beatrix, and how she was probably in danger. This is when Silva comes in and lets them know that one of the Queen's security guards had been freaking knocked out by a teenager. I mean, how are the Queen of the Realm's guards not the top fairies and specialists of the realm? What? Like I said, there are some things that, like, I just have to, like, come to peace with this show. Like how there are 3 total staff members at Althea. Well, I guess not staff members, faculty members, because there is a lunch lady. We do know at least there's a lunch lady. I can't. We know at least there was a lunch lady, an assistant that died, and then the 3 faculty members. I can't. So Beatrix manages to tell Bloom even more, like, semi-true information in their car ride back to Althea before the 3 teachers catch up to them and grab Beatrix and take them both back to Althea. But Beatrix is in, like, shackles, and Bloom is just sulking in the back of a Solarian SUV, apparently. Then we learn that Sky has been tailing Bloom ever since the specialist party, and now Sky is upset about it. Really? Now you're upset about it? Oh, something I forgot happened in this episode was when, and I love this scene only for, like, Riven's reactions. When the girls are like, oh my god, where's Bloom? And Sky's like, oh my god, where's Bloom? And, like, in between them going and alerting the faculty about it, Sky goes back to his dorm to ask Riven where Beatrix is. And Riven is like, dude, I don't know. She's not surgically attached to me. And then Sky's like, well, I need to find Bloom. And then Stella comes freaking bursting out of his bathroom door, and he's like, you're looking for Bloom? I need you for emotional support because I'm needy. And Riven's face when he gets up and he's like, have fun with that. I'll say it before, I'll say it again. Riven's character is my favorite in Fate. It's just so spot on. It's exactly what we deserved in a Winx live action inspired show. Like, I love it. So after the girls like go and tell Farrah and Harvey and Silva about Bloom being alone with Beatrix, and they're walking back to their dorm when freaking Tara is like ranting about how she was lied to by the adults, and then Musa finally reveals to her sweet mate that she is in fact dating Tara's brother. And Tara's reaction took a much different turn than Musa anticipated, which was like really well. A lot of people have a lot of feelings about the Musa, Sam, Tara dynamic, and say that Musa finally revealing to Tara that she was dating Sam was her being selfish. But I honestly think that Musa did see, like, did it after she saw and felt how angry Tara was getting about being lied to about people and like by people she cared about. And she can feel that Tara cares so much about so many people, including Musa herself. And I feel like that probably like caused her to decide to tell Tara. I honestly think that Musa told Tara so that their relationship could get better as roommates and possibly could even become friends. I don't know. Crazy thought. Plus, like, Musa likes her brother. So it makes sense that it helped with curbing the edge of her feelings towards Tara, honestly. And then Bloom's encounter with Dowling in her office, interrogating her about what she had done with Beatrix, and Dowling asking about their trip to Astrodel. Of course, she doesn't know that they went to Astrodel, but like, this scene makes me so mad. Honestly, it reminds me a lot of Harry Potter and Dumbledore's relationship, when, you know, Harry Potter is just being a straight up like brat in Order of the Phoenix. Like, but to Bloom's defense, she did just get a bunch of semi-false information, like, thrown at her that would probably leave anyone to be a little leery of everyone at this point. Also, what the freak? Farrah's call to Vanessa was literally unnecessary. It was only there to bait the audience into thinking that Farrah was the real villain, and it didn't address it at all by any of the characters after that. Like, Bloom should have been on the phone with her parents in the 5th episode about how she was reassuring them that everything was fine, that she was fine, or at least explaining it to Aisha or Sky that she found out that Dowling called her parents. Like, it doesn't seem like something that this version of Bloom would have taken lightly, does it? Man, we made it through. We made it through the 4th episode. We have 2 more to go. Like the rest of the episodes, I recorded my initial reactions to watching Fate episode 4 for the first time when it came out in January. So I will leave you with those now.
Alright, so much just happened in the 4th episode, and crap just got real, and I don't know how to feel about any of it. And my nose is so cold. And freak. So let me just go over my notes. Why are there like 3 professors in the whole series? I'm living for Robert James Collier. I love him. Why are all these magical advanced people using freaking mortal iPhones to communicate? Also, they're supposed to be on another planet, but there are Earth fairies. Would have made more sense to be just nature fairies. I don't know. Freaked out when Bloom was talking about that she was born in 2004. Because, like, yes, queen. Yes, you were. Because, like, LOL. You were born in 2004. Winx Club aired in 2004. I freaked out. Riven is an F-boy that continues to be an F-boy because he keeps getting played by the Trix just all the time. What is wrong with him? He's so predictable. Dumb enough to be played by Beatrix. What else is new? I like that it's more mature. They should have been in college age, though. They shouldn't be 16. That's just ridiculous. Hells yeah. Restricted area. We love a good restricted area. Luna is intense. Stella's power, or her power's potentials, are hella sick. I don't know how I feel about them making Beatrix and Bloom from the same place, if she even is, because at this point I don't know if like they're lying, you know what I'm saying? So I have 2 more episodes left. That's scary, and I don't want it to be over, and I'm scared. Okay, what else? Bloom with Sky's assignment. Hello, what? No, thank you. Then the full caught feelings. Ain't that always how it goes? These teachers are sketchy AF. I called it. I said I knew it, that Farrah was going to be evil, but like I really hope that she turns out not to be, but like I really hope that like I don't know. I'm talking so fast. Episode 4 complete, heading into episode 5. I'm scared. I'm upset. I've been waiting 17 years for this. Okay, cool.
Hey there, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of the Winx Forever podcast, consider giving us a follow on your preferred streaming platform so that you're notified when new episodes drop. The theme for the Winx Forever podcast is the song She Makes Magic by Big Wild.